at what we know that's not true because it leads us to new questions. So this is the last of the three that I want to talk about. Now we know that users prefer short queries. And the reason that users prefer short queries was discovered by Nick Dulkin. The search engines make the query boxes small so that short queries fit well and long queries don't. Why would they do that? I mean, we know that longer queries can provide better results. Why would the search engines make the query box small? What's that? Efficiency. You pay by the word. The cost of a query is linear in its length and number of words. And so I have to buy twice as many processors in my server array if you have twice as many words in your query. So I'll make a short query box. Thank you very much. Now, there are other reasons why users like short queries. So, for example, if I give you a one-word query, and you can give me documents and I don't like them, I know what to do. I'll change the word, right? But if I give you a 14-word query and you give me a bunch of stuff I don't like, I got no clue what to do now, right? Because I don't have any operators and all this stuff, right? So users give one-word queries because they can control the darn thing. Okay, so we have this beautiful setup where the users like short queries, and so do the search engines, right? And so it's this self-perpetuating thing. So we know that users like short queries. Okay? Well, they probably don't always like short queries. So here's a Trek topic. Now, I spent 2 weeks ago, I was at the India Research Lab, and I said, why don't you look through this and see what topics would be, appropriate for this environment. And let's pick one to work with just to get to know something. And they picked this one. And I looked around and everybody is thin as a rail at the India Research Lab, and I'm the only guy that's carrying a little extra weight. And I'm thinking there's a message here, right? So this part of the talk is joint work with Nintendo Rajput, who's got a bit of a sense of humor. Anyway, this is the topic. And this is from Trek 5. It's from quite some time ago. And you can see this title, description, and narrative. And you see this patterning, right? So the users like short queries, and the Trek people, they invented this before the web. But later, when the web came along, they said, oh, we'll just use the title as the short query. And they started writing short queries in there. So the title's a really brilliant short query. I'll show you how good it is in a minute. Right? But then you can add more words later on, and maybe your search will get better. And really, that bottom narrative business, that's just there to help the judge. Nobody thinks anybody's going to type in something like that, right? Okay. I mean, it's user-generated content, right? So we'll use spoken queries and we'll find spoken documents. That's not going to work, right? I mean, just think how this works. I mean, literally, IBM tried this, right? They built a system in which, it was a brilliant system, just well-engineered. They figured out that call forwarding was like a hyperlink, right? So you're on some spoken web page and you want to go to another web page, and somehow you tell the web page you want to do that, your call gets forwarded. And they pass a little packet forward so that there's a back button. There's like a voice back button, right? And so they call this thing the spoken web. Now, they're not the only people who've done this. There are a lot of work on spoken forms. And Bill Theus at Microsoft Research has a lovely paper in which he points out that none of these systems have ever entered operational use. Lots of people do research on this. Nobody does it at scale. And as we know from information retrieval, until you do it at scale, well, you don't really understand the problem because there's so much evidence out the tail of the distribution, right? So if you're an IR person, you have to work at scale. And these small problems are just a place to do some tinkering, to see what might be ideas, to change the way you think. So I'll show you what we did 2 weeks ago. This is just a little one-week excursion. We took that topic And we went to 3 people in the lab and we said, would you just pretend you're talking to your cell phone? And you're not a technologist, right? These are all people in the lab. You're like a farmer or something, and you just want to get the answer to your question. Just babble. Just tell me what it is you're looking for. And if I don't give you an answer, just keep going. Right? And so this guy goes, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I'm working with, well, I'll tell you, but I can't put it on the slide. IBM Research, right? For more than 2 years now, so most of my life has been around designing voice user interfaces, couple of good research projects, almost 10 papers, 10 research papers I've been published. I come to the office, I even skip lunch, and after a while, he kind of gets around to, I'm a little worried putting on weight, the cafeteria's not so good here, which is why I had to pick out the IBM research business, right, because everything else is fine. And so, how well would we do with this query? I mean, in the first place, this is going to cost a fortune, right? I mean, we're going to be sitting here searching all day with all those words. So we'd have to do a little query shortening, but there are a whole bunch of people thinking about query shortening. But in the second place, we don't actually want to do this in English. We want to do this in Gujarati, right? And we don't actually have a speech recognition system for Gujarati. Well, we do. It gets one word right out of every 8, right? Well, out of every 7, actually, now. But that's like the Gujarati word for the, right? That gets you 10% just for starters. So this is going to be really hard. And the idea is, well, if we'll just have people babble, we got some chance of matching a word. Now, if I ask you, how many of those words do I need before I can put the answer in the number 1 position? That's an interesting question. Never really thought about that before. So that's what we did. So this is like the game Name That Tune. Has anybody ever heard of this American game show, Name That Tune? No, you're all too young. Okay. So this is from the 1960s, but here's an example. Oh, I thought I had an example. Right again. No? We get the audio? Need to hear that. And what they would do is they would play a tune, and they would have contestants, and one of them would push the button as soon as they could name that tune. So that's the game here, right? We're going to play Name That Document. All right, so I'm listening to your query, and I'll push the button with my machine when I can find your document. So I want to know, well, first, how fast can I get your document in position 1? And second, can I tell it's there? What features would I have to look at to build a system? So we want to play Name That Tune for information retrieval. And so we can plot, this is going to be the reciprocal rank. That's that number I showed you before. So this is 1 when it's in position 1, and 1/2 when it's in position 2, 1/3 when it's in position 3, 1/4 otherwise. And we're going to run the trick query into this, and we'll just run across, and we'll plot the reciprocal rank based on the number of words we've seen. Oh, and Tana Harmon would be so proud of this, right? They get it in 2 words, right? Weight control and bam, rank 1, relevant document. Yeah? And a little later they have some problems. See how this works? Okay. Well, now that's really too easy, so let's reverse the trick query and start from the back. Because, they weren't planning on that, so it'll be all the same words, but they're just in a different order. Let's see how bad they do. So that's the light blue line here. And you can see that by, I don't know, 32 words or so, they got it nailed. Right? These trick people are really good at picking words. Well, let's see how our friend at the IBM India Research Lab is at picking words. So we've got 3 of those. And here's one of them. Right? So we go along and they couldn't find anything, and then all of it, 70-second delay. So I need a machine that can tell the difference between the first one and the second one, and here's the third one. All right? So the third one here is locked on rank 1 by 40 words. 40 words is 20 seconds. 20 seconds is somebody talking, perfect recognition, right? I mean, this is all hand transcription just to see how we can do the task. Now what do? We go shoot words, right? And we see how it's going to work when we're missing long words. Those are highly specific words. We'll come back next week. Maybe we'll have that. But you can sort of start to see the setup of a research question here, right? You can see an evaluation metric of some sort emerging. So this question doesn't come from Trek. This question doesn't come from Clay. This question comes from India. But it's not a question about the Indian languages. It's a question about the world needs. I could use this to talk to my car once we build it. But the question starts from the cell phone. Here, by the way, if you want to see it, this is the words it takes to get it right. So this is speaker 1. Hi, my name is, I'm not going to tell you. Now look at this. Look at the word that it does perfect on. I get to the word diet, and bam, we are right there. Thank you. We'll use it again in a minute. Here's the second one. Goes on, ramble, and then talks about weight. Now look at that. It's the second time he says weight. Yeah. The first time said diet, but said weight before that. Here's the third one. It's on weight. Yeah. And indeed, weight doesn't work alone. Look back at the Trek result. Weight was the first word, and it wasn't locked on 1 yet. You can see how to build the feature set. And once you have the feature set, then you can make friends with people who do machine learning, and you'll have a nice solution to this problem, and things will have improved for many of us. This, by the way, is what's the Trek forward, and there's the Trek backwards. And look at Trek backwards. As soon as we get to diets, we're locked on. Very strong signals here in this one topic. Okay? We have a lot more work to do. Okay. So those are the 3 big things I wanted to tell you about. But I want to finish with 3 sort of motivational, inspirational things we don't really know anything about, but they're problems we have to solve. Why do we study newspapers? What's that? It's easy to get them. The Lord must have loved newspaper text. He made so much of it, right? And then gave it away. But why did they give it away? Because it's copyrighted. They protect their rights while giving it away. Copyright is this amazing legal invention that makes it possible to have ownership and share a good that can be infinitely replicated. It's an amazing creation. We don't have any of this for your cell phone, right? You're not going to give me everything you said on your cell phone, but that's okay. I'll be happy with just your email. You're not going to give me your email either, are you? Okay, your SMS messages. No? Do you see the problem? We need something like copyright. I need the ability to give you some assurance of privacy. Now, our friends who work on medical informatics, they're very, very concerned about this. They want to know not only can I protect the privacy, but can I assure you that I have protected the privacy? Right? So there's a lot of theoretical development going on there in addition to the practical work. If we don't do that work, if somebody in this room doesn't do that work, nothing else matters. No one will ever be able to develop and evaluate this technology. So somehow, we have to figure out how to handle the privacy protection. These are the things that we've tried. We can use public collections as surrogates. So the Enron collection is what everybody uses, but the problem is, I don't know about email, I know about Enron's email. We can use policy to control access. So we're creating a new email collection, which we're going to license through the LDC. And it's going to say that if you take something from this and put it on the front page of the New York Times, we will hunt you down to the end of the earth. On here, right? Don't know if that's going to work or not, but that's what we're going to try because it's so important to get new collections, right? So we're trying to sneak up on copyright. Or you can do what many of our colleagues have tried, which is to say, it's nonsense to send results in. You don't actually want your results. Send us your system, right? You say you have a system that can solve this problem. Send us the system. This is what you're doing now with morphology, right? So if you send us the system, we'll run it in our larger system. Well, it's cheaper. They don't have to build all this speech stuff. And it's secure. They never see the content. Yeah. So we can protect privacy that way. But then they can't iterate their system designs because they can't do failure analysis because they can't see the content. So we still have work to do here. If you're a PhD student in the audience looking for a problem, it just found you. Right? We really need your help on this. Now, the second thing I want to talk about here at the end to be inspirational is flying to the moon. So, if you think privacy is hard, you should try flying to the moon.
So it's launch day, and they actually count down, and they don't delay. You're really, I mean, when did you have the sense sitting out there that this is really going to happen, and you're really going to go?
Well, I think the greatest concern was that it wouldn't happen. I had two great concerns. I think the worst fear that I had was that somehow the crew would foul up. And that was the one thing that I did not want to happen. I had a great team of Bill Anderson level, and I wanted to make certain that we did and we could handle whatever was handed our way. Second thing was I didn't really want the mission to get fouled up, but we really weren't certain that the Russians weren't breathing down our backs, so I wanted to go on time.
What was it like to lift off on that? I mean, there's never been another rocket like the Saturn V.
No, the Saturn V was a unique vehicle, and of course it was powerful and noisy and vibrated, and the stagings were really kind of violent. But when you got on the third stage, the S4B, it was smooth and quiet. Just like the upper stage of the Gemini. Actually, it was less demanding than Gemini from a G standpoint because it didn't reach the high Gs. It burned, I think, 11 minutes or something like that. It didn't get to the high Gs.
No fear at liftoff?
I don't think there was any fear. The main fear, as I said, was that somehow we'd screw up.
So that's the commander of the first crew that rode on top of the Saturn V in the previous mission, which was the second flight of the Saturn V. Two engines failed during powered flight. One engine failed to restart, and there were vibrations sufficient to permanently injure the crew, although not to kill them. And they decided that because they thought they had fixed everything on the third flight, they would put 3 people on it and send it to the moon. And as you can see, their only fear, as he tells the story now, was screwing up. Right? Now, 300 people have told stories like that about what it was like to fly to the moon, but that's a very small part of the stories we have. And you'll note that's a conversation much like the Holocaust interview that I played at the beginning. Let me play you a second conversation that's somehow related. For some reason it's on. ready to enter lunar orbit? 35 seconds from now, they're going to fire a rocket. And if it overburns by 4 seconds, they'll hit the moon. And they're very careful here.
And the moon is there, boy, in all its splendor. Clouds are very great, eh? Don't look at it. Here it comes up. Okay, let's see. 99. Right. And back for two. Yep. Deep cloud.
So that's somehow the same kind of thing, right? It's a conversation, a lot of domain-specific technical terms, a little bit more difficult acoustic conditions. These are 3 guys flying around the moon. That's actually there's a notch filter to filter out the sound of a pump that's right next to the microphone. That wasn't really very good planning on the part of the people that built the spacecraft. And the reason that's recorded is if they hit the moon, they're going to send another rocket out to the moon, land, and pick up that recording, right? And find out that the guys were looking out the window when they should have been looking at their instruments, and then tell the next guys not to do that. So everybody's heard this stuff before because, as we all know, if you're going to fly to the moon, you have to go to the moon, right? But most of the flying to the moon didn't happen at the moon. It didn't happen in the rocket. 3 guys went to the moon. 300 people sat in the control center and controlled the mission. And that audio is now being digitized for us by NASA. 29 channels recorded continuously on 10-day missions, 15 of them. Right? So we're going to have an audio search problem in which the goal is not to find the answer to a question. We actually have a system that can find out how many times they said swear words on the way to the moon. That's rather easy. The goal is to find, when are they talking over here in the interview later about something that I just heard in the mission over there? And then, when I'm in the mission over here, what do I have in the interview? What do I have in the interview? How can I affect the mission? And how do people make sense of this? So, we've been thinking way too much about how do we present text to people when we're going to one day be drowning in recorded audio. And we have to start thinking, how do we present audio to people? So this is a new NSF project we have. And if you think the problem is simple, here's our challenge problem. This is the audio that we want to process.
We got more of a problem. Okay, listen, you guys. We've lost fuel cell 1 and 2 pressure. We lost O2 tank 2 pressure. And chemistry. Okay. Stand by, they got a problem.
That's 3 of the 29 channels. Right? That's from the position of the controller who was responsible for figuring out what had happened in the explosion on the way to the moon. So we're back to the problem we started with. That's a joint project with speech people. The speech people are expensive. We got $1.98 to do linking, and they're going to figure out which people are talking when to whom. So speech people are giving us the ability to work with this new kind of data, giving us ways of thinking about new things. I'll leave you with 2 stories. One is when Edison first made an electric light bulb. He made it, you won't be surprised, from blown glass. He evacuated it. That was the big innovation, right? It was a vacuum. Put a filament in. And on top of the bulb, he built a little piece of glass that looked like a wick. Now, why would he put a wick on top of an electric light? Anybody? Everything that makes light has a wick. Right? I can't sell you something to make light if it doesn't have a wick on it because you won't buy it. You have no way of thinking about it. In fact, he had to put a sign next to the light telling you not to use a match to light the wick, but instead that you should use the key on the wall, because it was an electric light. Notice, not the light switch on the wall. Why not the light switch on the wall? You know the answer, don't you? No one had ever seen a light switch. Right? So Edison had to invent the wrong thing twice. He had to invent a light bulb with a wick on it and a key to turn it on, so that we could today have lights around us, as we do, that work as they do. You have to do the wrong thing first. Well, we've been doing the wrong thing for a little while. Right? So it's time now to think about how we evolve what we do. So I'll leave you with the last sort of challenge to the way of thinking. Anatomically modern humans who could talk, have been around for somewhere between 50 and 100,000 years. They could share experiences, learn from each other. We developed during that time a wonderful oral culture. There are stories that still come down to us from times before writing, but not very many of them, and not quite in the style that they were told at the time. Because all of human history, I mean literally all of human history, is caused by writing. This educational institution is caused by writing. Scholars came together in universities around libraries. Writing is fundamental to that. The first 18 years of a human's life in much of the world is spent learning to read and write and make use of that. That's 25% of the human lifespan is spent in that preparation. And yet, it's been worthwhile because everything that we have created together has been created somehow indirectly through this invention of writing, despite the fact that humans are designed for speaking and listening. And we have to learn how to write. We speak and listen naturally. They've written down that are important to you. Right? We are going, in our lifetime, to build the technology that is going to make this, for the first time, accessible. If you don't believe me, go look at the Google Goggles description about people walking around with glasses that are recording not just the audio but the video, everything they hear and say. We have to figure out how to get our laws to align with that. We have to figure out a lot of things. One of the things we have to think about is how to find what we collect. And that is the mission of this community. If we take it, and if we don't,